On August 6, 2025, there was a glimmer of hope, a time so still and sterile in a lab, and yet so deeply unsettling in its repercussions. The Webb Space Telescope, the most powerful observatory in the history of mankind, was forced into emergency override mode. Not for a supernova, not for a black hole, but for something significantly more regional and local. Something terrifying, or at least a comet. Something with the appearance of one designated three-dimensional atlas. At first, it was believed to be a different interstellar body, cold, solitary, and prone to wandering. But when Webb's sensors locked on, the first influx of data they captured wasn't just unexpected, it was impractical. The chemical fingerprint revealed there was no natural model. The ratios were grotesque. The elements were mismatched. The behavior was erratic. And as the numbers kept arriving, one fear began to slowly creep in, threading its way through the minds of every astrophysicist watching the feed. What if this isn't even a comet? What if this is something sent? This is precisely why you ought to subscribe right now, so you never miss these in-depth examinations of discoveries that could alter our perspective on the universe forever. The initial indication that something was wildly inaccurate came from the comet's coma, the bright envelope of gas surrounding its core. Usually, at this distance 6 astronomical units from the Sun, a comet should be asleep, frozen, inactive. The sunlight out there is weak, too feeble to cause any meaningful outgassing, but 3I Atlas was already present and violent. Webb picked up spectral lines not dominated by water vapor as expected, but by carbon monoxide. A lot of it, 8 times greater than water. That ratio to 8 to 1 was not just unusual, it was unprecedented. Typical comets barely reach 0.7. Even Boris, the last interstellar visitor, remained close to 0.5. This was completely different. A person exhaling carbon dioxide at an unimaginable rate could not be explained by solar proximity or temperature. It was as if the object had been designed to vent this exact compound under conditions where nature wouldn't let it happen. Even more bizarre, the thin, ghostly coma. There was nearly no dust, no solid debris, no typical gas, no chaos, only smooth, controlled, and specialized gas emissions that hinted at a different type of relationship. A comet that is new to our understanding of formation. The Webb telescope became locked on as the story grew more sinister. Its sensors picked up something even more alarming than gas: nickel. Strong, consistent nickel spectral lines started appearing across the ultraviolet and near-infrared bands. Neither traces nor anomalies, but clear, powerful signals, real and repeated. Nickel cables perfectly stacked above the background, increasing in focus the closer the object arrived. At 3.8 astronomical units away, the output was already measuring above 10 atoms per second. By 2.85 astronomical units, it had increased by an entire magnitude level. Yet the nickel was not present with its usual companion, iron. Across all instruments, from the internet to the largest telescopes to Gemini, iron was dead, flat, absent. No sign, no trace, not even sound. And that is unusual. In every meteorite and natural comet ever recorded, iron and nickel work together. Their ratio is tightly coupled, 1 part nickel to 15 parts iron, always. Until now, 3I Atlas broke this rule in the most violent manner imaginable. Nickel overtook iron in weight by more than 40 to 1. There is currently no known natural process that can create such a split. In labs, separating these metals takes energy, intent, equipment. Drifting silently through space was an object, but was it being passive about it? Or perhaps not passive at all? Before even the complete decoding of chemical signatures occurred, the star tracking network noticed something else. Atlas of 3I was moving, but not at the speed of a comet. It could not come from solar heating or pressure. It was too far from the sun, too cold for sublimation jets to generate that much momentum. Even so, in a mere 72 hours, the object's speed went up by 0.1 meters per second squared. That number may sound small, but for a body 11 kilometers wide, the size of a city, that kind of acceleration is immense. Like witnessing a cruise ship accelerate in the middle of the ocean without engines. The change wasn't smooth, either. Analysts observed jumps, jittery flickers layered over the principal motion arc, as if something inside the object was turning on and off and on again. Attempts to explain it through outgassing, fractured crusts, or solar winds didn't work. Nothing could compare to the rhythm. None could explain it because it was regularity. Every 7.2 hours later, 3 Atlas became sharply and presciently bright, similar to a lighthouse. The brightness curve wasn't chaotic like falling objects, it was sealed, clockwork. Some people suggested a sheet-like surface catching sunlight. Others proposed a rotating hollow frame. But one thing stood out: this wasn't a rock. It was a precise object that moved. And this is the point at which the scientific tremble. Because when everything is ruled out, when sublimation, randomness, and chaotic structure all fail, what remains is a possibility no one wants to face. That 3I Atlas is engineered, manufactured, built. Possibly not by intention. It could be debris, a fragment, a derelict vessel from a civilization that perished before the Earth expanded forests. But maybe it's something worse. Something vivacious. Probes still active. A mechanism still responding. A method that sees us and has no interest in us. One that follows a course that is not dictated by nature but by design. Because no comet should wake up in the freezing cold, emit metallic nickel containing no iron, and accelerate without fuel and mechanical spin rhythm. Despite this, it is performing everything in front of the instruments we use best, without attempting to hide. James Webb, the man override, was not merely a technical issue. It was a reaction, an expression of panic, a whisper, an unspoken consensus that this isn't normal, that it could be the first time we're looking directly at alien machinery. And even if we are incorrect, the simple fact that we can't tell the distinction any longer, that alone is the warning. As the acceleration data sparked debate across the observatories, a brand new flow of information emerged, one even more difficult to dismiss as normal. The sunshine curve photometric data from Gemini South and a discovery by the JWST Space Telescope, recurring illumination of 3 Atlas every 7.2 hours. That alone would not be too bizarre. Many comets and asteroids reflect sunlight in recurrent patterns. However, this was not chaotic tumble. The light intensities were to clean, to exact. They didn't fade gradually or flicker irregularly like the spin of an irregular rock. They appeared and then vanished on and off at precisely set intervals. Even though gas emissions went up and the thing accelerated, this light rhythm didn't change. Like a metronome, it held its cycle. This stability suggested something much more organized, something that was responding to more than just sunlight. Not randomly, but with precision.
Some theorized it could be a light sail, a structure with high reflectivity intended to capture light from the sun. Such a system could theoretically account for both acceleration and the frequent flashing pattern. Others suggested a rotating platform with flat panels, but all agreed the conduct did not conform to any known natural object. It was not a spin. It was a mechanical signal, a pulse, and with every pass, it whispered to the instruments, and to those watching from the ground, the same message: I am not what you believe I am. In that instant, everything shifted. The shift was not caused by the object itself, but by the people observing it. On August 6 at 2:11 GMT, ground web users received an alert from observatories. The center of control, the spectroscopic data descending from different telescopes, could not be overlooked. Offset CO emissions, metallic readings spiking on the charts, and a sudden curve of velocity that made no sense under gravitation. At that point, it happened. The override for emergencies, an exceptionally uncommon protocol that interrupts each scheduled inspection and detours the James Webb Space Telescope from its long-term endeavor to examine a single anomaly. It's a move that burns valuable budget, fuel, and time. It has only been carried out a few times since the telescope was launched, and never before for an interstellar object. The override chain was ready within minutes. It climbed over committees, over project timelines, and arrived immediately at the desk of the lead scientist. It had to be approved by all, and it was. Webb shifted. its tools recalibrated, and at the 17 GMT it locked, using the near-spec, onto the 3E Atlas instrument. What transpired in those first packets of data wasn't just unusual, it was bizarre and historic. The spectra did not display the icy footprint of a comet. They demonstrated a carbon chemistry so extreme, so volatile, that it altered every assumption about bodies of the known solar system. The decision to overrule was not simply a logical decision, it was a silent alarm. The most cutting-edge telescope ever built had just paused the universe to chase a machine.